regular meeting of the Dodge County Highway Committee to order. All members are present, and Supervisor Sheehan Malloy doesn't want to get paid unless it lasts more than an hour.
Right.
Alrighty, I'm going to move down on the agenda a little bit here. We have the superintendents here, and we want to talk about employee retention and recruitment.
Sure.
Okay.
I guess I'll just start by saying that today we are short 5 highway maintenance technicians, 4. One new one started Tuesday, brought us back up to 4 vacancies. Strong rumor we'll have another resignation next week. Big concern, we're in September, and we know it's right around the corner. So I asked Joe and Nate to join us tonight to talk to us about the effects of being short-staffed in the winter months. What it means to them when they put together crews to plow snow, what it means to them when they need 2 sub-drivers in on the 4-lane, 24-hour roads, what it means to them when there's members missing for any number of reasons, FMLA excuses or other situations. So I thought it best to hear it from the guys that have to address the employee shortage at the hardest time of the year. So,
Yeah, today's the first day. It falls in here, right? So you know what that means. What's right around the corner? Winter. We're short 4 today, as Brian said. We were short 5. Just hired a guy to get to 4 anyways. And we've been short all summer, and we can plug holes and skate through in the summer and still get work done. It might be a little slower, but we still get it done. It's not as big a deal. Winter, however, scared me. Being short 4 guys. Today, if you add up our county and our state routes, we have 48 routes. 48 trucks go out anytime it snows. If you add the airport to that, which is more often than not a truck there, there's 49, okay? 49 trucks going out the door. With being short, 4 guys today, we have 1 spare guy, and that's a guy we just hired who is not ready to plow and won't be for some time until he gets some training. But we'll say we have 1 spare guy today. What happens when someone's, God forbid, gone on FMLA due to who knows what? Someone's going to be gone on vacation or no call. You know, potentially multiple people.
Another question.
Yes, go ahead.
So the 48 trucks that go out and the one in the airport, so that's 48 guys. Is that including the supervisors or no?
That does not include the supervisors. No.
So supervisors capable of plowing.
All of us are capable. We just have 2 supervisors on at a given time watching each side of the county.
go ahead and talk about the day you plowed in.
Yeah,
Supervisor.
well, it's been done where
Bring
we
it up,
have.
because that sounds much easier than it is.
Yeah, no, we've done that before where the supervisor, we're short guys and we hop in a truck. The other supervisor tries to take the bulk of the calls over the county radio. We try and fill in, and honestly, it's fine and it's even maybe fun for a little while, but after a while it starts to get old because it's the phone doesn't stop ringing. It's a lot to try and manage. Someone's broke down over here, someone needs a part over there. You're trying to be an octopus and do it all, and you can do it for a little while, but it gets tough. It's certainly not ideal. But
Residents calling them, dispatch calling them, our drivers calling them, the shop calling them, and he's trying to close them.
right. Well, and then I might be on my piece of the road seeing what's going on, but I can't see what's going on all over as far as, okay, you could go home, I need you to stay, I need you to go over here to help. You're out of touch with what's going on when you can't see what's going on besides your route. Another really big concern that's very real is our Class 1 roads. If it's snowing or if it's slippery, whatever it may be, they have 24-hour coverage. The trucks need to be out there. Well, 24-hour coverage, the guys can only work 16 hours in a shift. Someone's got to home and rest for the next shift to come back in if it's continuing to snow or blow or whatever it may be. On the west side alone, for me, I have 6 trucks that are on Class 1 roads. That's just the west side. Joe's got X number on his side too, in total.
Yeah, total, it's like, well, not too.
With 1 spare, we are not even close to being able to sub guys in and out. So something's going to have to give. We're going to have to steal guys off a county or Class 2 state to fill those. You know, you can't let 26 and 41 and US 151 go, it's just not gonna happen, so something's gotta give, so there's a shortage there too, and that concerns me and scares me, you know, like I said, we've been short all summer, we can get by then, but winter is a different animal. That's what the public sees, that's what our phones ring about. Depending on the snow, if we have to clean up intersections right away or just make a quick hot lap, come back and do it again, I'll say 2.5 hours to make one lap, one round on their beat, excluding township. So if we start going short trucks to steal from, you know, rob from Peter to pay Paul kind of a thing, you know, to plug our holes, that 2.5 hours is gonna become 3.5, maybe 4, depending on what we gotta do or what we're short, but that's when we get the calls, you know, depending where you are behind a plow and they make their whole circuit, their whole lap, maybe a plow hasn't been on a piece of road for 4 hours in a bad, you know, scenario. And that's when people call and say, where the heck are the plows? They're out, just depends on where you are behind them and how much road they gotta cover. So it's a very real thing, and I guess it concerns Joe and I. And it's something you guys should know, and if anybody has thoughts or suggestions how to help recruit, how to help retain is a problem right now, we're all ears.
So, last year, we were fully staffed, correct? Yes. But prior to last year, we were men down for how many years? And how many men?
It always varies.
Yeah, it's a moving target, I guess.
2 or 3 for sure, probably.
And I think typically we were better staffed in the winter months than we were in the summer months.
Yeah, it's usually,
They leave in spring.
right, they leave in spring and, actually the last year, well, when we got fully staffed, we were pretty lucky to get those guys, because I think the other jobs are laid off or whatever was going on, so for a while we were pretty lucky.
So when they left, when you had your accident interview, what did they say was the reason they're leaving?
Several things. The common thread is pay. They can make so much more in the private sector than what we're paying, that it's hard to resist. Some have said they can't afford to work for us. Some have said lack of advancement opportunities here. That's a concern. But the common denominator is pay. It requires a CDL, it requires on-call status for 5 or 6 months. It's a bit of a detriment, but they don't normally complain about that because we work with them. We work with them on their time off requests. We have the winter on-call pay, incentive for them to want to stay on call and help us out when we need them. We have benefits that this private doesn't have, 4 10-hour-a-day weeks and some flexibility and things of that nature, but let's face it, if you have a CDL, you can make a lot of money without looking very far.
So I got a question. Say you had a driver that's been driving you for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Does he get more pay as time goes on, or is his pay flat?
No, they get cost of living increases or whatever the budget will afford, but there's no
But then-
graduations in there, there's no structure. And you know, years ago, we had that.
What's that?
There's no pay structure. That's how union shops, the pay's all over the map. So let me ask you, so if they're out plowing snow, let's say at 4 in the morning, right? And they start at what time, 7? What time do you guys start?
Yeah, normal hours in the winter are 7.
All right, so do you send them home early so they don't get overtime, or do you let them finish out their shift?
Go ahead, you guys explain how you
It
do
all
it.
depends, we will work them at least 8 hours.
But what I'm saying, if I have to go home early because I hit my 8 hours rather than put in a couple more hours to get the overtime, well, then
Well,
why would I stick around?
we have premium pay. If you come in at 4 in the morning, you're making time and a half until 7 o'clock.
Okay, so that's what that,
You could, but we save them, more importantly than the money, we save them in their timing out by sending them home when we're finished. If the sun's shining, the wind's not blowing, why would we keep the barns full of guys? Send them home, they need the rest, because we're gonna probably need them back.
right?
So we have to manage these people, we don't have spares. We need to rest them when it's time to rest them. We don't wanna pay them overtime when the sun's shining yet, that's not how we roll.
So they get time and a half after.
Anything outside of 7 to 3 is time and a half. It's not considered overtime because that gets to be a legal mess with their accruals. There's the base 2,080 hours that have to be achieved for accrual purposes. So it's not time and a half, it's part of their base hours, but it's paid as premium pay at time and a half. Gets deep, but it works.
So then, prior to last year, when was the last time prior to that we were fully staffed?
It comes and goes,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, we always joke about every time we get fully staffed and you think we're good, then something happens, someone leaves, someone retires, so it's a constant moving target.
10 years ago, it was common to be fully staffed. Since then, it's hit and miss, 2 or 3. Winter's usually better than summer. It's been random for 10 years.
The winters themselves
So-
can vary a lot,
Oh,
can't they?
very much.
So if we're, on average, we're down 2 to 3 people, right? Below staff level. Well, what if we took those vacant positions and say 2 of them eliminated? Then, if part of our retention problem is compensation, wouldn't we have the ability then to better compensate the people that we did have?
That's exactly what you did
We've
4
done
years
that
ago.
twice since I've been here.
Yeah.
Cut the staff to pay the remaining people. There's a limit to that. These guys are telling us we're at it because I don't know how many we're gonna lose tomorrow, next week. They're leaving us faster than we get them back. And I don't want to sound ungrateful or disrespectful to people we're hiring, but they are lumps of clay. They're not the guys we used to get.
That's- I understand that, that's all.
You cannot put these
That's-
people in a plow truck for a
Right.
very long time. They take a lot of training. They've gotten CDLs somehow, some way, and I'm glad they have that, but that's all they have. So there's a big learning curve for training these people before you can put them out in a truck on their own. So sure, we hired a guy the other day, but if he can plow on, it depends on the season. If we get enough early snow, maybe sometime in January, he's ready to go out on a simple county route somewhere. Depends on the guy, depends on the winter. But these guys are not plug and play like they used to.
I put them on a town first.
Well, sometimes that's harder because they're narrow, nowhere to
Well,
turn around.
there's something also to
They
entertain.
sit in a ditch.
We're using our guys up on these town roads. Maybe we really need to seriously consider in the future, I mean, obviously this winter's coming. Towns are kind of banking on us, but maybe for next winter, we should consider
It's a discussion
backing
we
away
can
from the
have.
townships because
That-
we've got to do
see
something.
that.
We can't, we're losing people because of compensation. So if we have less positions, where we've been down 2 to 3 people, last time we talked about this was 5 and 6 years that we were always down 2 or 3 people. Maybe we could compensate better if we didn't have those 2 vacant positions that we had to budget for.
Yep, we've done that before, and that can be a discussion, again, it's all give and take. You know, where's the comfort level, where's the pucker factor? That's what these guys have to
Comfort
tell
level is
us.
gonna be fully staffed, but where's the comfort level for?
Well, no, I mean, yeah, you're talking about lowering the bar. Where's the comfort level? When does it become too short and,
So don't you think it's
we provide emergency service.
worthwhile for the guys that have the experience, that are, been there for 3, 4 years? I mean, there's more value to that driver than somebody you just hired.
Right,
So how can you reward those to retain them longer?
My question behind the scenes was, have you considered an apprentice-style program which would give you the ladder you're talking about, something to achieve and allow the people that have been here a little bit longer to understand that they've hit that level after hitting whatever milestones? Or, perhaps a seasonal premium where you could maybe get the same group of people that come in just for winter. There are construction jobs that seem to be paying them so much more money that drive them away during a summer and construction season. They don't have that same kind of work usually, although construction's kind of getting hit too with a lot of retirements and departures. But have you considered perhaps a seasonal premium as well?
We did. We had that somewhat established with the HR committee years ago. Didn't have any luck recruiting anybody. The first person we people we went to as our retirees.
Okay.
Because a guy working for Michaels or Wondra isn't at all trained to jump in our trucks. They'll need the same training curve before they can get put out. We talk to our retirees because they have it.
Right.
Those are the guys. Why do you think I retired? I'm not gonna plow snow. That's the reaction we got from every one of them. So we have done that with no success. It's still a good idea, and there may be an occasional person who could step in and help us out. Regarding the apprenticeship, I was part of a statewide effort to work with tech schools and to develop that through the one of the university programs for workforce development. And we had some tech school reps there, and we had 5 or 6 meetings to write the criteria for these apprenticeships. And of course, you need tech school participation. It's going to be a 2-part thing. It's not just hire men at a lesser wage and school them in-house. It's got to be a formal apprenticeship. It was great until that program lost its funding. Dried up. We've talked internally about developing a structure. I've had a number of discussions with our HR people about us in-house just developing certain criteria that if they can meet that criteria, it's not just be here for 5 years and graduate, but if you've paid attention, taken the effort to learn these certain standards, you could graduate to the next step. Give these people a ladder. That's one of the things we're lacking. Give them an incentive to come here and stay here. There's some real complications with that. One of them is their union. That takes away our ability to be creative and to change things the way we'd like to.
May I ask one more question before you go? Is there a possibility or any appetite for perhaps using your a tiered benefit system so that the value of the benefit package that you offer could transition to a dollar amount for those folks that could be on their wife or husband's insurance, or some way to transfer that benefit package that would incentivize on their paycheck? Because we're dealing with different generations, so as you get into my generation, the benefits are really why you stay where you are, and the money on your paycheck means less because you've saved. Whereas with the younger folks, they're more likely to be enticed by the green.
I've brought that up a number of times at department head meetings, maybe even in here. There's what used to be kind of an illegal thing for governmental agencies to do is no longer illegal, and that's offer a stipend to your employees to take other insurance. And I think that's what you're referring to. Yeah, I've mentioned that frequently lately because we are faced with an insurance crisis. I don't know if it's ever been discussed formally or gotten any traction, but I've suggested that. That's easy money.
Yeah,
That's easy money.
An administrator said that, I don't wanna talk for him, but it doesn't sound like he's on board, so.
And I don't mean to co-opt that, I just think that you're looking for some
Think
creative
outside of the
outside
box here,
you know.
I get it. How many class 1 trucks are on your side, Joe?
I guess with my helpers, 6.
You have 6 as well? So we really got 12 class 1 trucks that we have to run 24 hours.
At the nighttime, we can run short of the 12, honestly, at nighttime, and that happens a lot. That's how we try to stagger our shifts to rotate them.
Minimum is 9, no.
What's that?
Minimum is 9. Well, no, not all class 1.
9,
Yeah, no, the minimum
Right.
on the state is 9, but they're not all class 1.
right, correct. But I did want to comment on Dale's. Dale, you were heading where I was gonna go eventually, where you talked about, on Tuesday, I just had one of my employees, it was his last day, he took another job. He was here 10 years. That's the exact guy I don't want to lose, because, your veterans, those guys that retire, you can't help that. That is what it is, right? The new guys are gonna come, they're gonna go, they stay a year or two, you don't have maybe as much invested in them, that's gonna happen too. But those guys that are in the middle, they're the next generation, they're my next crop of guys that are gonna be the mentors and train for the future. So when we lose them, that hurts so much, because everything we've invested in them, now it's gone, we gotta start all over. And every year, our employees, we're getting younger and younger, we're losing that veteran presence. I mean, everybody is, right? It's everywhere, but those are the
It's
guys.
the companies that are stealing these guys.
It's all poaching, there's
Yeah,
not
it's
enough
poaching.
people around.
Right,
It's
it's,
all poaching, and we're
Right.
not very good at it. We used to be. We used to rock at poaching. Most of the guys we hired were well-seasoned veterans from contractors. Now we're the incubator.
So now, our pay system then, guy that's here 1 year, he's making the same as the guy that's here 15 years?
Well, no, of course not, because the guy that's been here 15 years has gotten many cost of living increases. We also have, today anyway, we've had, and again, I don't know whether it's going to apply in a human setting, but we have pay for performance reviews. The better you do, the more you make. If you're a go-getter and you want to learn something and do more than show up every day, you have to make more money. There's some incentive.
Yeah, I think that's part of the problem.
There is.
The guys I've talked to with the highway department, they would rather just see one annual raise and get rid of that performance. It's
All of them? Or just the ones that get the neutral? There's a whole spectrum going on there. They may not all talk to you.
maybe.
The other problem with some of this pay structure, the way it's set up with county here, some of these guys have been here 3 years, 5 years. Well, when they get a bump, a lot of these guys are back down on the same level or maybe one notch ahead of where the guy comes in. So a guy walks in the door here, and this other guy's been here 4 years. There's too much compression there.
And the last McGrath study, and the one before it, Carlson Denton, when they rearranged everybody and slid them around, that's where we got some real disparity, and we haven't been able to overcome it. There's a handful of our guys that are still bitter. Years later, that, in that case, yeah, I've been here 4 years longer than him, and he's making the same as me. That happened when they did these readjustments to try and address compression, but there's always a give and a take. And the guys that we're taken from are bitter. I don't blame them. Another problem we've experienced in the past, and we may this year, big problem, when we do a percentage increase, then we have a significant insurance increase, the net pay for many of our employees goes down on January 1st. That is not incentive to stay. We've lost people solely based on that principle. Why would I stay if I'm making less this year than I did last year? They leave.
I said that on the county board floor last year at budget season. I said, pay's mediocre, benefits suck. Why would they get sick around? Now we're gonna see the repercussions.
Right now,
It's real.
If we went back to McGrath now with the situation as it is with pay in the private sector, I would think they could realign that and
Them
give us.
studies are a bunch of crap.
Well, they kinda are, but we kind of went down the path, I more or less
I
agree.
think we're on a better path about the stipend. I think we figured it out that even if we pay a penalty on insurance, we can give every employee $8,000 to go get their own insurance and give them a stipend. And then we don't have to worry about keeping jacking up every year 19-20% health insurance rates.
Well, I'm not sure that's a,
It's $4 an hour. Some younger guy coming in, that's gonna resonate. Because you don't use your benefits until the last 8 years of your career. It's proven, that's statistics.
yeah, that's probably not a discussion that we can take much further here, but anyway, I see what you're saying,
Not to mention a lot of the studies that we do,
I know.
we don't end up following them anyway, so we might as well have spent that study money on our employees.
Right, I'm just one guy on a committee, but
Right.
I don't run the department, so.
That's right.
Another thing I think's been an impact on our ability to recruit people is the fact that we require them to have a CDL. We used to hire some promising people without a CDL, help train them, provide a tractor and a trailer, and have them go get their test. And then we had a CDL employee. Federal government has recently passed a new law. You cannot train your employees. They need to go to an accredited school and get their CDL. We talked to a person we interviewed a couple weeks ago.
it's about $6,300 to go to diesel truck driving for dummy towns up there.
And get a CDL.
Was it Crowd Camp starting their own school
They
thing?
do have their own,
Yeah, but I ain't stuck
Fox
with them
Valley
for
Tech.
so long, you probably can't see it working.
Columbia County has a program like this. They've had very little success with it. I think they've had 2 in the last 2 years that went through it.
Yeah.
And they try to make them sign a contract and stay there either 2 or 3 years, otherwise you gotta pay X more dollars. And it really hasn't worked out, and they're still quite short of employees.
I think they're 14 short right now.
And I guess to make matters worse here, I got 6 guys that won't be plowing snow by next year. I got 6 guys that are gonna be retiring. 2 of them are out on the big roads. And the problem that we're talking about is exactly what you guys are talking about here. It's like these guys are gonna come here on January 2nd, see what their paycheck says. These guys are gonna hang on till September, October, and shut it down for hunting season. It's like, I'm making less money now than it was last year. We might be out 2, 3 more guys here in January. We just don't know.
The real issue is our hands are tied now because they re-signed up or they recertified in the union. So, you know, basically all we can offer them is the cost of living increase, which is very unfortunate, you know.
Well, look, we forced them to join the union.
Nobody did, but they thought they were bettering themselves by doing it because they didn't get the whole story of what they're really signing up for, you know. But that's,
Well, being a right to work.
I don't know if they
state,
can uncertify or not once they certify for a year. I don't know that either.
Certified for what union?
They certify.
LAW,
That's it.
Labor Association of Wisconsin, represents government employees only.
I think
And by
it's the
law-
same union that the sheriff's department is
I
represented by.
think you're right. By law, all they can negotiate is wages, up to cost of living. No work conditions, no work hours, no anything else can be negotiated or bargained, just wages.
Right, up to a certain,
Up to
not even at
CPI.
1%, it's less than that.
Well, it's up to
It's the
CPI.
consumer price index that the Wisconsin Department of Labor puts out every year, the
Right.
Wisconsin.
So basically, their wages come from whatever the county board decides they're gonna have.
It's whatever HR negotiates with them up to whatever the CPU is, you know.
No, we can get
Haven't
them
been-
above that.
Yeah, we can pay more than a
It doesn't
contract,
have
we just
to
can't
be-
pay less.
No, that ain't, yeah,
I think-
you can give them more, you can't just give them less. Yeah, the union can negotiate up to like 0.4 of a percentage point, and then the company can actually give more if they so.
That's a
desire.
motion. I think we should get a second. But it's awkward at best.
Yeah. So you can, I guess I was misinformed on that. I thought that's the max you could give them is the CPU.
That's-
No.
You can,
By contract, but if you want to, it's awkward at best. And I think should be an agenda item or should actually be a Human Resources Committee
Yeah.
agenda item.
I
before
think
we
human
get
resources.
Too far in the weeds on that one.
Yeah.
Okay,
Make sure
let's
and get-
move on, I guess.
Yep. All right, as long as we're down.
You guys go, okay.
Yes.
Okay. I don't. Here for. Would these guys want to stay for the town service contract history?
They might.
No, what do you think?
It's up to them. We're gonna talk about town.
We're gonna talk about town contracts a little bit. I don't know if you wanna, we move to that one, if you have any input on that.
Stick around, please.
Sure. Let's do that then. Let's move down to number 9, town service contract history review. Maybe our soup can help shed some light on that.
Okay, I was asked to have this on the agenda, and I was asked to provide some cost recovery history. So, I did. Maybe pass these down past them their own.
We can, in the future, can we get this information beforehand?
Oh, and I would have loved to have done that, but you know how short-handed we are in the office right now. I'm sorry, I wanted to send this out ahead of time, but I got this today. I would like to have sent it to you.
You got some extra copies there, Jeff? Let me send
I
them
mean,
to this.
I don't need one, but
Just one would be good.
Well, what about the actual contract itself, I requested?
I didn't understand that to be a request. You've seen that, you have it, I can get it again.
Or I think it's when it says that, you know, under Wisconsin state law, that it's required, I think that should be the title.
I'm sorry, what?
When I requested for the information under Wisconsin state law of open meetings, do you think that that would apply.
So you asked for this to be an agenda item.
No, I sent an email to you, Mr. Kane, Mr. Cohen, the administrator, requesting for this information, and it has to be, you have to inform me within 10 days where it's at. And I've never gotten a reply back within 10 days. Cameron, you still there?
I am, I'm listening.
So did you get the copy of that request? I was looking for the town contract.
I believe that I did in an email. You
Right.
sent it via email, did you not?
Yes, I did.
Yep.
So I'll accept responsibility for that, if that was in your request.
I think, did you include, it was you, me, it was Brian, me, and Kim
All right.
Thompson.
How many towns we provide plowing service contracts for, including names of the towns? All the towns we service actual contracts over the last 5 years. The amounts, the dollar amounts we bill each town for the 28, 29, 20, 21, and 22 season. Do we bill each town for salt, brine, overtime, extra expenses?
That's what's
Well,
in your hands. That's what's in your hands.
I can tell you a little bit, because I'm on a town that pays the county. When we get a bill from the county, it's about 5 pages long. They give, every item is billed out. Hours, salt, everything.
I brought one bill along that you can pass around and see 1 month's bill for town plan.
Okay.
That's the detail in the invoice, if you pass that around. And what you have in your hand that I sent around is a summary of the last 3 years, because prior to that, it's in Davy Edwards and we can't get it. But here's the history for towns we've serviced in the last 3 years. By name of town, by job number, and segregated out as labor, overtime, fringe benefits, small tools, equipment, material, admin fee, and then the total is in the far right column. That's what we've collected from the towns that we've worked for in the last 3 years. And what you have,
So do we do 4 towns or 5 towns?
we do 4. 1 year we did some town of Fox Lake work.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, they've since found a contractor to do their work, so they're back off our list. And what we've done with them and with Clyman is kind of a hybrid. We spend more time than we have plowing dead-end roads, especially dead-end roads without adequate turnaround. So we made kind of a hybrid agreement with Fox Lake and with Clyman. They will either contract with someone else or own their own equipment small enough to go do dead-end roads. And our county trucks will only do the straight-through roads. That gets our guys back out on our county and state systems and not spending time we don't have on dead-end town roads. So Fox Lake was that way for 1 year. They found somebody to do all their work, and Clyman's been that way for a number of years. They bought a smaller truck and they have somebody do their dead ends with their equipment.
So are we billing this per mile, per hour?
Right here, actual cost. This is actual cost off an employee's time sheet. And that sample that Supervisor Badke has in hand has everybody's hours, equipment hours, tons of salt, it's all on there. And the rates we use are the actual cost rates as established by DOT.
Right, but when we salt our roads, right, I know other counties do this, when they salt their roads, they actually have like some kind of computer system inside the cab that actually shows how much they salt per mile. We don't have that, do we?
Most of our trucks do.
We do. And so that's how we decide how much we're gonna bill.
All the highway bills I've had, and even like when I have the county do some summer work for me, or all the detail like that, and get them. So it's just not snow and blow. I mean, it's for any work that they do, that's all that highly detailed.
Very comprehensive.
That's the same invoicing system that we use for the state. A state monthly invoice is probably 20, 25 pages of good that size. We are most.
Yeah, they're getting billed at the same rate the state does, and they're getting less than half of the service. Just by the,
The amount of time we spend there, their level of service is less because their traffic is down and their budgets are less.
Well, given our short staff situation, I think it's time to seriously consider back to making town work.
And
Every
as
other,
a town, we think we can save money by hiring a contractor versus the county too, so we're looking at that exact same thing.
Yeah, I don't,
As you should,
I
right?
don't disagree.
It's more cost effective for your town,
Yeah,
or city, or whatever.
if we can find a contractor, which since we're close to Fox Lake, we may be able to.
Thing with our guys in the wintertime too, take into consideration is, we don't have, let's just say we got 4 extra trucks standing around, okay, you 4 guys, you're going to townships. So every one of our guys in these different areas, some of these guys they'll go in 2 different townships, they're in a county, they're in a state. So, same thing again, is if someone's short, well, you gotta pick that up, and it just keeps building.
well, and that time that you're spending out on town roads is time that they could be spending
Exactly.
getting a rest.
Exactly. Well, about getting rest, or at least there are times they're on our roads where it belongs.
They would just have to, because the routes, is the routes like, so the plow driver does the county, a state road and a town road, he has a route, and that's the road he does, right? It's all mixed together.
Now, I just want to give a perspective. This is not the magic bullet to solve our problems.
No.
I took, 2021 here was $9,000. 22 was 7,800. 23 was 13,000. If you take an average $25 an hour, that's between $400 and $500 a year. That's a quarter of a person. Not saying it's wrong, but it's not the magic bullet, it's not gonna solve our shortage. It's about a quarter of one person, when you put it in that perspective. We did.
Apologies, everyone. I know there's, people are making comments. I'm having trouble hearing some of the comments. Brian, I just heard most of what you said, and I'm hearing a little bit of everybody else. So I'm not weighing in. I'm feeling like maybe there's something I can share if I heard it a little better. So I apologize about that.
Are we using the mic on your tablet?
Yeah.
No, I know, that's a little limited.
We'll try to everybody speak up, Cameron, so hopefully you can hear a little better.
Hey, I hear you. All right, Jim, that's great.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing we
We're all hard
have,
of hearing. We'll, yeah.
the other thing we have here is equipment, materials, all these things will be gone. That would be expenditures that we would not incur. That would be money that could be in our budget to increase the enticement to keep our staff.
Well, no, we wouldn't use as much salt, we wouldn't use as much equipment, no. This is a push through, there's not a savings here to them, they pay
The
us.
equipment is still,
Right, but it looks like for labor and overtime for last year, for all the towns, just them 2 categories, we only spent $22,000, less than $22,000 on labor.
You gotta put fringe in there too if you wanna capture all those employee costs.
Well, yeah, but regardless if you're in town or not, we're still gonna have that big benefit.
That's the reality of it. The flip side of that is this is additional revenue to offset property tax. We're gonna pay these employees whether they're here or not. I don't mean to say that lightly, but anytime we can get an outside revenue source, we should consider it. A good example of that is we paint for DOT and for other counties in the summer. That's 4 guys that are bringing in additional revenue to our department in addition to property tax, sales tax, ARPA dollars. It's another revenue source for the highway department.
Those are revenue sources. This is not.
It's not?
It's at cost. It's a break even.
Well, except for the labor, fringe benefits and overtime. That's additional money we wouldn't be getting if we weren't doing the town work.
It's money we wouldn't be spending either.
Yes, you will. If people are on the clock,
still on the payroll.
they're still gonna be there.
Right, but we would have some savings in, salt, right?
I gotta try
Well,
to speak up. Cameron's trying to hear us, so everybody try to talk a little louder.
Cameron, can you hear me?
Oh, now I can hear you really well. Thank you.
So there would be some cost savings on salt. We wouldn't have to salt the town roads, but.
Oh, they're paying for the
Yeah,
salt.
it's just a push.
There's no savings really.
You maybe order less, but It's a push.
Order less.
Take your contract in.
Maybe this has already been repeated, but I think everyone understands, and in case someone doesn't, the benefit here is the economy of scale, potentially of having, and being at the right place at the right time with our vehicles, our people, to take care of these roadways where towns might not have vehicles and equipment, or where the road is located, it doesn't make sense for them to do a circulatory route to get to that road to take care of it. It's an advantage for us to then shoulder it, right? But if we, and I'm stating this, but I'm also inviting, Brian, if I'm incorrect, to please chime in. But ultimately, it shouldn't be per se a profit generation for us. It's really should be something we're doing to help reduce the cost for taxpayers. And
I'm gonna stop you right there, because, you could say that all you want, but at the end of the day, some of these other municipalities are paying their own way, and, towns, if they don't wanna pay for the service, then they don't have to pay, that's their prerogative, right?
right.
Because at that
But
point.
we don't offer service to everybody in the county. We don't offer cities the same service to plow their city streets. So, you could say that we're doing a service, but we're only doing a service for a few, and there's, a hell of a lot more people out there than these 4 little towns, so.
Every other municipality, township, city is subsidizing the 4 on this list.
So is the
Because
concern,
they're all paying full price. Township I live, or village I live in, as a private contractor, they have to pay.
It isn't you have to pay, I think you're looking at it wrong. Because I'm saying is,
Well, they're not gonna come out to it for free, Dale.
no, but what I'm saying is our town, I think we could hire a contractor cheaper than we're paying the county.
I don't.
If you can get one.
Maybe.
If we can get one, that's the big question, if we can get one. But we've talked about it, that we could have a cost savings for our town by hiring a contractor rather than a county. We look at this
Last year
as an
we-
income stream for the county.
And last year, you guys only paid, less than $28,000. I don't know. Isn't that what it says here?
We paid
$28,000.
$24,000.
44,000 for everything, all in for Westfield.
Oh, Westfield, that's where you're at. So 63,000, that's what I'm looking at? For Westfield?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's 62.
Maybe, I don't know, it'd be close to it, it'd be very close.
Jeff?
Yeah.
May I make a point to anybody?
Talk louder for-
I'll talk louder for Cameron. This has come up with contracting outside of Highway Department and other departments who decide they want to contract. I've seen it at IT, Sheriff's Office, et cetera. And what isn't being brought in to this equation is the cost and the time of PTO, sick time, vacation time, holidays. You say fringe benefits, but all of those hours actually hit the county side. They don't, they get 100% of the hours that they pay for at the town level and in these contracts. And the county then gets less time because they've given 100% work hours to these other contracted services. So, do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Go ahead.
Equipment depreciation, repairs, all of that ends up on the county. And there is a revenue stream, yes, and I agree with you that that is a revenue. But this other cost, this human hour cost, is 100% in the negative for the county side. Because all of the vacation, the PTO hours, all of that stuff, those hours are taken on county time. The hours that go to Westford would be 100% work hours.
Our fringe benefit rate is a very, very, very complex formula devised by the state to address that very issue. Our fringe benefit rate is different from any other department because we have depreciation, we have buildings and grounds allocations, we have salt storage allocations, we have non-productive pay as part of our fringe benefit rate. Our fringe benefit rate is overwhelmingly detailed to include all of those. So when we bill a DOT
I believe so.
or we bill anybody, we have that recovery mechanism in place.
Why would we not be doing that in the rest of the county then?
I can't speak to that.
the last bit, sorry.
Yeah, they have fringe benefit rate on here along with admin cost, stuff like that, material, equipment, small tools, and it all gets added in.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. I guess the question that Kira had is, and we're kind of getting off our agenda here just a bit, but I guess it's worth asking anyway, is if the highway department can capture all the accessorial costs in their fringe benefit equation, why can't other departments do the same thing? And just something for your information, I guess.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're covering all the costs that,
Hard hats and everything's in there.
Well, at the end of the day, we already gave out the contracts to these 4 towns, right?
For this season, correct?
Yeah.
But it didn't come to this body for official approval.
It came to this body for consensus.
Right, but that's not what the law says. The law says that we as a body need to, we as the body are the representatives of the county and speak for the county.
Except for counties that have a highway,
No,
county administrator.
I don't think so. I looked at the statute, I don't think that says that at all. I said what it says is that this body has authorization to approve contracts, not the administrator, or not the commissioner. I mean, Cameron, I gave you the statute in that email. Did you take a look at that? It's 83.01528.
I did glance at it before, Rob, but I don't have it in front of me now. Let me go ahead and get back to your email.
Yet given the fact that there was no action, or it was a consensus to go ahead and move forward with this,
No,
or no action.
that's not what happened.
I know.
The notes clearly, and the video clearly state that we had discussion, all right, and there was no action taken. So it doesn't automatically give the commissioner or anybody else permission just to go ahead and offer contracts to anybody. Because they do not speak for the county.
I haven't looked at the statute myself, but I guess the way I
Let's make
understood.
that a separate agenda item if we
Yeah,
need
we
to.
need
Rob, would you be
to.
willing to share that citation again while I'm sitting here with the page open?
It's 83.01528.
I think if we're gonna dig into this and into a lot of detail, I would just as soon we table it at this point and get it on another agenda and dig into it as to what the commissioner isn't able to do. My understanding was he had the authority to do so.
Fine, we'll put it on the agenda for next time.
We will do so. Okay. I'm going to now move up to item number 8, disposal of the Roll Farm property, 8A.
All right, here we go.
There was a number of us at the executive committee meeting the other night where this was an agenda item. And the executive committee talked at length about where we are, the things we've learned about the property, and made a decision that it's probably not in the county's best interest to keep the property and to try to use it for alternative housing as they had hoped maybe it would be a good candidate for. So the committee discussed a number of different ways it could potentially be disposed of. The 2 simple ones are either an online auction service or list it with a realtor for a sealed bid process.
Okay, but before that, who made a decision that we wanted to sell the property again? I don't remember this body having discussion that we wanted to sell the property.
We had,
This property has been under this committee's jurisdiction since it was purchased, and none of this monkey business has come through this committee, ever.
Well, their action deferred it to us the other night.
The other night, right?
Right, but it should have,
Right.
it should have been right at this table the whole time. Exec has no business taking over jurisdiction of our property. None.
I believe exec.
Just because
probably
nobody
does.
told them no is not a good reason. We hear that before. Oh, nobody said you shouldn't, so let's go ahead and do it.
And why can't we use this property for 908 housing that we're having to maybe be fined from the state on?
980.
980?
980.
980.
I mean, they said $50,000 repairs to the house, right? Well, that's a hell of a lot cheaper than what we have to pay the state, because we can't find anything for housing.
What's the
I
carrying
remember-
cost for the property today?
Excuse me?
$100, what's the cost to carry the property today? $100 in utility cost?
Oh, heat and things like that, I'm sure it's more than that, it's probably, you know,
We could eliminate the heat if we had to, right? I mean, if it's not being used, you
it
could.
could, but
Type the whole house.
it'll completely deteriorate if you don't keep heat on, it'll get moldy and,
You gotta have at least 50 degrees to keep it heated.
So what's the cost? $1,000 a year, $1,500 a year to heat the place?
Probably $1,000 something.
$40 a month
I would
for
say you're
utility,
looking
for
at-
electric?
Yeah, service
I
charge
bet
on
you it'd be more
electric,
than that.
gas.
I bet you electric alone, because you're.
Well, you got some meter
electric-
costs. You
Right,
got no
meter
reason.
costs, yeah.
Yeah.
What is
But I
that,
bet you
20,
meter
40?
Meter cost is $16 a month. So how much, what are you gonna use?
Yeah.
500 kilowatt hours?
Our utility
I don't
bills
know.
are minimal. They truly are minimal. We kept it at 50 degrees
What do you
last
have
winter.
budgeted for this property?
I don't think we do.
We do.
Like we
Well,
just have.
if it's yours, why aren't you budgeting to
Because
maintain?
we just got the property in the middle of the budget season last year.
and the cost.
Well, quite honestly, I think it was discussed at this level, and I think our consensus was to sell the property.
When we had the meeting at the property, when we first viewed that property, you know,
Oh, yeah, I might, I don't think I was here.
you know,
Well, that was when Chairman Froling was supposed to be talking to a realtor and getting back to us with the value of it.
Well, I did that. We did get a market study done.
Is that at the July?
Immediately.
June meeting, is that?
And the market study
Which one?
indicated between $320,000 and $349,000.
No, I wasn't there.
That was a year ago.
Yeah, it was in June.
and then.
I think we toured it once too as a committee. Before
We
the,
took, yes.
Yes.
before the
Before the
June
open
meeting.
house.
Yeah, because they had open house like 4:30 to
Mhm.
like 5:45, wasn't it, before the June meeting?
Right.
Then I think we toured it before that.
We toured it before that,
Maybe
shortly
then-
after
Yeah.
the purchase,
Right.
after we purchased the property.
Yep.
And at that point, we felt the best thing to do was to sell it based on just our understanding of the condition of the buildings and the work that would need to be done to make it fit for, you
Yes.
know, any county
Yeah,
purpose.
because we did talk about like
But
the value of the
other-
barns and then the pole shed and
Silo.
and
And the
yeah,
silos,
right.
and the liability for those,
Yeah.
you know.
Cameron, you think we could use that housing for 980 housing or no?
So, don't want to interrupt you, I'm having trouble hearing still. So what housing specifically are you talking about?
We talked about the 980 housing, that we're having issues with trying to get housing for,
Chapter 980,
yeah.
Come on, roll farm.
Roll Farm, the house there.
So, I can tell you that today the Chapter 980 committee met and included, in order to make sure they met all due diligence with properties, they included the roll farm. I don't know what the outcome of that analysis was. They produced a filter essentially that throws in all of the statutory requirements for safety buffers with individuals that would be in need of the housing. I don't have an answer yet, but if it's possible to use it, that will be coming up as an update shortly.
Well, then why won't we want to table this at this committee
I
level until we
believe we
get
do.
the results?
That's the first time I've heard this
Right.
information, so we don't want to take action to put it on the market if they're still considering.
But wasn't
Did
this
the
gonna
building committee agree to do a space study? And if they did, and we're gonna do a space study, why would we make the decision at this level instead of waiting for that study to be completed and then make a decision on what to do with the property? Otherwise, why are we doing a space study? You know, we're gonna spend $60,000 or something to do a space study. I don't know what,
I didn't include the roll farm in the space study. But I can
Why
add-
wouldn't we?
We would have to amend the
It's-
contract.
I'm sorry, the gorilla,
Yeah,
is that Dave Gutenberg?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Could you restate that again? I didn't quite hear
well,
your relation
if-
between the roll farm house and any space assessment or space needs study that we would
well,
do.
well, it is property owned by the county, correct? Why wouldn't we include that in our space study? You know, if we're looking to decide what to do with all of the space that we have in the county, why would we not include the roll fund?
I mean, I suppose we could. There's,
Well,
at the present time, there's no one that, in terms of county staff, that believes there's a use for that property that would be a benefit to the county.
I thought you said the chapter 980 committee met.
See, that's why I'm a little
So-
confused, because I was at the exec
so
committee
that
meeting, I'm a little
was-
confused now. That's
Yeah,
what's,
that came after.
right, or am I wrong, or?
I'm
Okay,
with you. I'm-
yeah.
You're s-
The
doing that.
way I was unable to attend the exec committee meeting, but the way I understood it is they deferred the decision back to this,
So I
this
want to clear
committee.
that up. I want to clear that up. Rob and I
Okay.
were both there.
all right?
Right, that, and Stephanie was also there. It was presented to us that it was up to you, that you were discussing it today, and that we could present a recommendation as to whether we would use an online auction or a realtor, but we were not told we were in charge of making this decision, and there's a lot of confusion over why a committee, like, would be selling property assets outside of equipment, but that didn't get answered, and the roll farm was never proposed at exec at all for 980. I made a note to myself because the 980, that chapter 980 meeting was mentioned after the roll farm on our agenda, and I just made a note. Would it qualify, but I hadn't spoken with Kim Nass yet. So I was hoping that that might come up.
So
and I'm
Cameron-
surprised that hadn't yet.
So Cameron, at this
You know.
point, since the chapter
You're
980
being
met
given-
today and is looking maybe at the roll farm, you think at this level, at the committee level, we should table this until them results are in?
I guess honestly, my own opinion would be no. And the reason for that is based on proximity of existing trails in the area, which are considered at this point parks. We have trails right across the street.
Right.
So I'm not thinking that it would pass, but we realized, actually, Kim Nass realized, hadn't been brought to that body and considered with all the other properties, so she was doing it to make sure we covered due diligence. I don't see it as leaving that analysis as and still being a possibility for housing. Even if it was though, honestly, there's still a lot of work that would be required to upgrade the property. I'm concerned that there would be work required to upgrade the property so that we could house somebody there. So I would say if that's the only thing holding it back, then I would add that as an action that's contingent on, as you're saying, we want to sell it or we don't want to sell it, contingent on finding out there's nothing to do, there's no eligibility in this property for use under chapter 980. And then if we find out that it is eligible, we come back and talk about it again. But if not, then we pursue whatever course you decide to take. And I know I'm even a little confused on approvals because it already went to executive and executive's consensus was, let's list them. So,
No, he's incorrect there.
Yeah, I thought the executive committee,
Referred it to the highway.
referred it back to highway.
I think they agreed to sell it,
Yeah,
send it to highway to determine what method
to sell it
we
at.
would want to sell.
Well, it was either a
We would
realtor,
make a recommendation,
Right.
but because we didn't know why it was even in front of us. And to Cameron, or to this full body, the state has, with this chapter 980, has,
I can't hear you if you're
they
on,
are
sorry.
willing to pay for, are going to pay for improvements to buildings, or even, they were taking financial responsibility for upgrades or building a facility, correct?
That's what I understood.
Well, that's what
So
the
that-
corporate council thought that the
Right.
state statute said.
Right, so it wouldn't be a cost to the county taxpayer. If it qualified, the state would pay for those upgrades.
But we would have to pay for it up front.
That's right, it would be a reimbursement.
So I think what the administrator's recommendation was, we
Go
could
ahead.
discuss and make a decision on method that we choose to sell this by, whether it's through realtor or online auction, with the reservation in the motion that if it were to qualify for chapter 980, it wouldn't get listed. So we would have some direction here, yet kind of just a reservation until that chapter 980 gets to be researched a little farther.
Because your agenda item is disposal of Grove Farm, so you shouldn't really be discussing that. 980
Disposal of
option
Grove
at this
Farm.
time.
Well,
That's why you have.
If disposal is possibly chapter 980, then
Maybe
that's
we
why
should
I,
just table it till we figure out
Right.
what, how to do with it, then, oops, sorry. I didn't
I'd
say-
make a motion to
shouldn't have
table
said
this,
that.
because we don't seem to have any idea of what we're really doing at this point.
well,
And if it's gonna possibly qualify for this 980, that's something to look into, and then whatever area that falls under, then they can compensate highway for the 100K we had to put out to get it.
If it
Plus
did fall for
expenses.
980, would the county be responsible for demoing the barn and the silos? Would that be an added expense? I mean, because
hold.
Well,
Yeah, that's why I think,
That's-
right, that's why I think we really probably should just table it,
this.
get some answers on that, so we can make the right decision, because there seems to be enough communication between all the, confusion amongst all of us here, and I know it's, might get frustrating, but we gotta make sure we do this right.
Is that a second?
Yes.
All right. We have a motion to second. Go ahead.
Before you take the vote,
Yes.
can I just request that instead of tabling, because I know I'm gonna hear from our corporation counsel about rules of order, rather than table just to take action, to take no action until these questions are answered and bring it up at the next possible, soonest possible meeting after we get all that detail.
Well, I think for clarification, instead of tabling, we could just postpone.
Well, let's refer it to future agenda.
Postpone.
Postpone it to a future agenda. Is that adequate, do you think, Cameron?
Yeah, that.
Generally, we need a
I'm not gonna hear
specific
from
date
corporation counsel
when we're
to say
postponing.
postpone, I think we're good.
Postpone to the next regular highway meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. What date we got here?
Formal motion, or we're just gonna postpone it?
Postpone it till next meeting.
Do we need a formal
October
motion on
5th?
that?
I don't think so.
That's my question.
What?
Do we need a formal motion to postpone?
Well,
Why
I think
don't, would
it's
you,
reasonable that you seconded it.
he made a motion
Well,
to
he
table,
needed it
so
to
would you
table it.
amend
There's
your
two
motion?
different-
You want to amend your motion?
Amend my motion, amend my motion to
Postpone.
postpone
Till
until
the
our
next highway.
next highway committee meeting.
I'll second it.
Okay. You all right with that, Cameron?
Absolutely.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is postponed.
Should be October 5th, I believe.
Is that in your motion, October 5th?
The
Well, that
next
will
meeting
be our
was
next
the next regular
Well,
meeting.
For
For
I don't know how to word it.
clarification, put down October 5th,
Okay.
which is planned to be October 5th. Hopefully then we can get some information as to, you know, what the condition of the property is in based on other committees investigating costs for doing this and that, so we can, and by then we'll know what the 980 is, and hopefully we can come back to this group next month and make a informed decision as to how to move it.
Yep, that way there's those questions asked, and we don't go so unturned.
Thank you.
All righty.
We can do that. I'll make that happen.
Very good, thank you. All right, as long as we're on item 8, let's do item B, non-budget equipment
Did
purchase.
you vote on that?
Yes, we did, it was unanimous.
Thank you.
See y'all.
Yeah, see you, thank you. The motion was by Jeff Bressel and second by John House to the next regular meeting, which is planned to be October 5th.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, 8B, non-budgeted equipment purchasing.
I would like to make a motion that we no longer make non-budgeted equipment purchases.
Where are we at?
8B.
We're
We were on
going through
8A,
this
so I just moved it.
all the time.
Well, does this have to do with the, oh, okay, no, all right, go ahead, sorry.
Well, that's my motion, that we no longer purchase non-budgeted equipment.
I would just, if I may, there comes times when monies can be saved by purchasing non-budgeted equipment because you have an opportunity to purchase equipment at a given time, at a given price, that if you wait the next year and budget for it, that opportunity is gone.
Who's
I
to
mean,
say
that's
it'll
just my,
make that year's budget?
excuse me?
Who's to say it's gonna make that budget, that
If it's a
forthcoming
piece of
budget?
equipment that's needed, I mean, I just, well, I guess we do have a motion to no longer purchase non-budgeted equipment.
Second,
And now we have a second.
let's have some discussion on it.
Let's have some discussion.
So the question I have is, when this does happen, and I understand the reason why it does happen, it comes from something else that's already been budgeted, right? You don't,
Right.
let's say you're gonna buy a new dozer, and then all of a sudden this comes up, and that is pretty much dollar for dollar. You say you go that route, you don't buy the new dozer, right?
That's right.
So
You
the
still have
spending
money
is within the whole
within
big
the-
capital,
That business is.
right?
Right, but that is not what the full board approved the money for.
Money,
We're here
the
to
money,
be
the board
stewards
approved
of
the
the
money for
taxpayers'
buying
money.
equipment.
But that's
And-
not being a good steward, because it'd be a benefit to the county to change something.
Take an opportunity
So
when
when
it's
you
there.
budget to buy a truck, and you don't buy a truck, and you go buy a set of lights, what are we doing for that truck next year?
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but what are you, but if we sell equipment, right, my understanding, tell me if I'm wrong, if we sell equipment, let's say, we're anticipating to sell a dozer, and let's say that, we budget $100,000 that we're gonna get for the resale of that dozer. Now, it's my understanding that money stays within that year's budget, right?
Stays in the highway department. If it doesn't get spent, it goes into our fund balance.
And then we purchase other equipment out of that fund.
Right.
Wouldn't that be considered budgeted items?
That's lawyer speak.
I need a definition for what you mean by non-budgeted as a purchase.
Is it on the budget?
Is it an
Is it
line item?
an item listed on our budget?
I think is what Jeff's saying, that's a line item.
Line item, yeah.
I think frankly, it's tying the hands of the department to take advantage of opportunities that present themselves, as long as you're staying within the dollars that were budgeted by the
Right.
county board.
See,
Well,
and
then
that's-
let me amend the motion to get county board approval for purchases of non-budgeted items.
So I'm still confused because you have a line item that says supplies. And they budgeted because they think they're gonna need lights, but a little $2 light bulb, and they decide they don't wanna do the light bulb, they're gonna do out light fixtures. Does that mean it's non-budgeted? I mean, it's a line
I
item
wouldn't
that says
consider that to
supplies.
be equipment, but
So that's the confusion I'm gonna get.
So unless you
Is
want to
a
put
capital
a
improvement plan
dollar
a
value
part
on the
of the
equipment you're
budget?
talking about, you know.
Because if it's on capital
Myers,
improvement plan and you
$1,000
don't buy
items,
it, or it's
$2,000
not on
items,
capital
you know.
improvement plan, it's
Any
not
piece of
the
equipment.
rules of the board.
any piece of equipment that was not approved as a line item in the budget,
Even if it's $50?
yes.
That's hard.
I'd rather you
That's
put
every
this, have
day.
a strain on how to do
That's-
it.
Every damn thing you buy's got a.
Please show me, or tell me which piece of equipment you can go buy for $50.
Well,
I'm not talking
using that
about-
as an
I'm
example.
not talking
Facetious, yeah.
You know, I'm
I'm
not
using that as
talking
an
about
example.
expendable items, you know, I'm not talking about light bulbs, I'm not talking about fluids and,
But then you need a definition for non-budgeted, because them are
So I'll give you
budgeted.
I'll give you an example. Say they had skid steers, the county had, and all of a sudden, Badke came out with this deal where you could upgrade to brand new skid steers for like $1,000. Why wouldn't we do that?
why wouldn't we take it to the board?
Because the
Because
opportunity
the
is
opportunity would be
gone.
gone. Badke says it's gotta be done within 2 weeks or you can't do it, it'd be gone. So,
I think that's, I get what you're saying, but I think that's a little bit borderline micromanagement, and that's what we hire department heads for, to make those decisions.
Exactly.
I agree.
You know, personally, you know,
Well, then-
right or wrong, you know, sometimes some of this stuff is fluid and you get X amount of dollars designated for a certain, you know, if you're gonna spend X amount on the equipment purchases, if that fluctuates and moves from one piece of equipment to another, I personally don't have a problem with that, as long as it does not go over that initial dollar amount that was in there that is supposed to be, that we all approved.
But then why was that original piece of equipment on the budget?
Good question. I don't think it should be.
Yeah.
I don't think it should be. I think there should be a dollar amount.
Dollar amount, and that's
Yeah, I
it.
agree.
There, yeah.
Dollar amount, not specified.
No, let's not specify it in there.
But
Well, we already did.
This
the
committee-
board agreed to that.
Can
Yeah,
we
but I
see
think
that?
part of
No,
it-
what I'm saying is when we do our highway committee or our highway department budget, why are we budgeting for a dozer and not buying a dozer? Why are we budgeting for 2 trucks, not buying 2 trucks?
Can I address that?
Please.
All right.
Those are
That's
placeholders, so that we
that's-
have money available to spend on stuff that comes up.
Okay, let's talk about that light purchase we did last spring. We couldn't get the trucks because they weren't available. We weren't gonna buy them. 2 fellows that were in here before are the ones responsible for making out schedules and using people where they're best needed. And one of the things we like using students and seasonal people for is flagging traffic. It keeps our crews safe, and it's at a much lower cost than our full-time benefited people. We can't get seasonal employees, we can't get students. Not an option. They said, we aren't gonna have anybody, so our workforce is really gonna be short if we gotta have high-priced guys flagging traffic. If we bought a pair of these, that would really help us. And it can run 24/7, we can leave the lane closed on a bridge or a long-term repair, and run these lights 24/7. It's a much safer scenario, and it's a good use of money we're not gonna be able to spend on trucks we can't get. I think that's being a good steward of resources. Those guys had a good suggestion and a good plan and good reasoning. And we brought it here, and the majority of this committee agreed to do that. I really think that's our function. Be fluid, think outside the box, be flexible, but responsible. That's the way I saw that transaction happen.
I never, if you wanna go back to the lights, never said that the lights were a bad idea. I said I thought the lights were a good idea. I did say that with the $64,000 expenditure, unless we purchased them separate, and then it was only 32, and then it was all legal, we should have gone back to the board with that at that time. And what I'm saying here with this motion is, if we're gonna buy stuff that we didn't budget, we need to get board approval.
That's what this committee is for. That's what you'd sitting around this table and make decisions for, and be good stewards of county resources.
So are we required when we do our budgeting to do it by line, like specify a certain, because I think that's what the hangup is. You put, when you do either budget for the highway, that, all right, we're planning or we're thinking on spending $100,000 on this piece of equipment or whatever. Is that required when we do it, or can we just do a lump sum and say, we put your budget together, we're gonna spend X amount, and then that's it?
It's all internal.
It's all internal?
No, it's not. We have a board rule, that says a board rule $50,000.
Everything over
It has to go through our
$50,000
capital
has to go
improvement
to-
plan,
has to
and
go to
it
the
needs to be
board.
brought to the
Okay.
board.
All right.
Well, and if we just put a dollar value on it, I think the situation would be worse. You know, none of us likes to hear the public out there, or even fellow board members say, shiny new equipment. Well, then stop doing it. It's gonna be shiny new equipment.
Well, if we have a
We
board
just-
rule, maybe you should amend the motion that we follow the board rule of purchases over so much has to come back from the board.
We shouldn't need to act on that.
No, no.
That's been established
That's
by the
been-
board.
That rule's been there for a long time, that's why.
And it's been ignored by the highway department consistently. You hear me complain about it every year. The highway department's the only department that doesn't list $50,000 items on the capital improvement plan. The only one.
I have many of them on there.
Yep, no, sir. You categorize it and you lump it all into one number that says equipment, $2 million.
I have a 6 or 8 page attachment with that when I
In
submit
the
it.
capital improvement plan, I hate to tell you, anything that's been given to the board this year does not include said
That's not a
document.
highway department or highway committee.
Okay. So you're saying if Cameron sent me the capital improvement plan today, that list, that you are anticipating in the '24 budget is included in what I'm gonna receive?
I don't know what anybody's gonna give you. I know what I submitted. It includes a very clear list on a 5-year plan and the budget, what we intend to purchase in 2024 with our request.
Specific pieces of equipment over
Specific pieces of equipment
$50,000.
over 50,
Yeah.
maybe even some under, just to be
Yeah.
complete.
I think everybody's aware, but if I might jump in for a minute. And I apologize, because I'm hearing some parts, but not all. On the question of equipment, Brian, I think, mentioned that he had submitted information on equipment. And in the, what I'm looking at here, Brian, you submitted a fleet list, not necessarily what was going to be replaced, but maybe it was what was going to be replaced. I included it in the, among the sheets on each of the submitted capital projects. Is that something that's being debated, or did I hear that right?
The debate, I guess, is that the highway committee and the highway department ignore Rule 35 and don't list specific equipment in their budget request and or the CIP.
Okay. If I can too, maybe you've moved on past this, but if those signaling devices are still a concern, I heard that mentioned as well. Is that still a concern that's bringing this discussion about, or one of many?
Because it could be one of them, yeah, the way it sounds.
On that one specifically, if there's any concern and any culpability, that would lie with me. We had a detailed discussion, myself and Brian and Corporation Counsel Kid Noss, regarding those signal devices, and they conflicted with a rule, but were in line with a policy. And we sat for a while and talked about, well, what do we do? And I apologize for not having with me tonight the details, but I know that I can sit down with Kim Noss and provide those, get some clarification and share that with you. But we went the route we did based on feedback, knowing that there had been feedback in prior meetings, or as I recall now, I'd recalled then, positive feedback regarding the idea of taking on the signals rather than trying to recruit people to come and stand with a sign and telling folks to go slow or to stop. And then looking at the rule and the policy and knowing they were in conflict, they erred on the side of expediting a purchase of something that would be beneficial for the department. And so Kim and Brian both asked me about that, and I was the one to say go ahead and do it. So if that's an error, that's mine. But it was really trying to interpret between the two. And so maybe the discussion to be had, if there are other items like that, really lies in addressing our procurement policy and ways that it might be contradictory to, or that the rule contradicts with that policy, and addressing that when we set up new rules. But in the meantime, if there's specific concerns, I care about what this committee shares. I believe Brian does too, but if there's concern about that not having been entertained in the past or listened to, I'm happy to listen to that now and make sure that we do whatever we need to do in terms of communication, that we improve on that. Maybe rather than just respond with a policy change right now. And I only say that because I think in general, better would be hearing what the concern is and taking action than just making a policy change through a response to, if it's a small amount, isolated instances of a behavior that you're not comfortable with or have a concern about.
All right. Anyone else, any thoughts or comments on this? Because we do have a motion and a second to not purchase any items that are not a line item on the budget. Is there any other discussion?
I believe without board approval.
Without board approval.
Now, again,
Because
that's
I'm not-
contradicting a rule that says over $50,000. Your motion is
Right,
any
Jeff, I
non-budget
understand that,
equipment.
I understand that, but I'm talking non-budgeted items, because the full board, when they vote on that budget, they vote on the items that are in that budget. That's my concern.
And the rule is $50,000. Has to come to the board.
Well,
That's the rule that's currently in place.
that
I
is
don't-
currently, yes, Rule
So
30, but
I don't believe we can entertain a motion or take action that's contradictory to a county board rule.
Sounds
I
like we
think that
almost got,
enhances it.
it sounds like we almost got, and I hate to say this, because it seems like there's a trend maybe that we have conflicting policies and rules, that maybe we should start looking at some of those and just leave this for the time being and really start addressing this.
Well, if there's a conflict, you think there's a conflict, then you should probably address it with Cameron and put it on the executive committee so we can discuss
Right.
the conflict.
Right, I mean, just because, you know, if this is happening here, this might be happening elsewhere, I don't know, you
which
know?
it may be, and it shouldn't be
Right.
either.
You know, so.
I'm not saying we can't get stuff that we need, or stuff that's not in the budget. I'm saying, hey, county board, we kinda need this, it's not on our budget, you guys all right with that? That's all it is, that's all I'm asking for.
Again, the problem is, there's so many times you need to react, and if you wait for the county board to say, yes, guys, go ahead and do this, the opportunity is gone, they'll sell it to somebody else, and it's just, you know, you don't have the time to wait a month to make some of these decisions, you just don't.
Sounds like the IT committee all over.
Well, our next meeting is
Sounds like a reality.
in 12
May I
days.
just share an observation? May I share an observation with your
Sure.
committee? I think that when an opportunity arises and you know you have a limited amount of time and you have that money available in your budget, I can see the conflict and where that is difficult. What I'm hoping that you can hear from someone who's not on this committee, and I don't know what your pieces of equipment are that are rotated, I'll just be the lady that votes at budget time, and I'm looking at your complete list, and I think that that's what you're gonna purchase. From my perspective, if you are not going to buy a skid loader, and instead you're gonna buy a 48-ton truck, see, I don't know these pieces of equipment, if that's what you've decided, I would really appreciate knowing that that's the decision that you made, so that I can observe if you put it on next year's budget instead. It was important enough to put on this year's budget, and if you're deciding not to purchase it, that I accept that, I think you
And a
know.
report or something of that
Something
nature.
like that, so that I'm gonna look for it in next year's budget to see if you just moved it over, and I find that acceptable. You have to run your department. I think that that's reasonable, but at least I know that in 2020, when I voted for these 3 trucks, or voted against them, or voted for them, those were I'm expecting those to be replaced, and you may have to make a decision where 2 were purchased and 1 was not, and you decided instead to move it over to something that you had on a future, because this opportunity came up. You should have that flexibility, but the board should also have the knowledge that that transition took place. Does that seem like something that everybody can agree on?
Like a point well taken.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, I think it's important for you to be able to purchase things when it comes up. It just has a look about it that truck, and I've seen it happen in other places. I need this 2001 replaced, and then that 2001 sits in the lot, and we know it never got replaced. And so it just keeps coming up each, so it levels it out a little bit and looks better.
Thank
Fair?
you for your comments.
Thank you.
Well,
How do we put that down?
I think that's something that we certainly can take under advisement to try to put together a report if we have to deviate from.
Well, you're gonna have to amend the CIP anyways, because if you had stuff listed that you're gonna buy and you didn't, you're gonna have to push that back on the CIP anyway.
We do that every year, right? We refresh that and update it every year. Maybe what Supervisor Shamboy just orated could be the rule amendment. not tonight,
No.
but
We don't have the
when we amend county board rules, that might be a very good
transition.
county board rule to address this situation countywide. It happens. If you try to plan everything a year in advance, you'll be wrong every time, and you'll miss good opportunities. You'll be wrong every time if you think you can guess with any accuracy everything we're gonna need to replace or can or cannot get in a 12-month period. We'll be wrong every single time. There's too many moving parts, too many variables, especially post-COVID. Nothing is reliable or like it was.
I guess based on this information, would you be willing to withdraw your motion, or do we
No,
need to?
I'll call a question.
All right, if you're in favor of the motion that all non-budgeted,
Point of order. You called the question, so you have to take the vote whether you want to end debate or not first.
I was just purely explaining what a yes or no vote was. I don't think it was continuing debate.
Could I just read
But
her
that's
motion?
what you need to vote on, to whether we want to continue debate or vote on the question.
Okay, so I guess then if, based on Rob's interpretation of Robert's rules, if we wish to call the question now, guess you'd vote yes. If you want to continue debate, you'd vote no. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So we called the question. So again, the question is, if you're in favor of the motion that all, that we cannot purchase any non-budgeted equipment that's not on a line item on the budget, you vote yes. If you're opposed, you vote no. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
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 Motion is defeated.
Okay, I don't wanna be rude, guys, but I got another meeting I have to be at, so I'm gonna get out of here, so.
Okay, thank you.
That's kind,
Sorry about
I
that.
appreciate you giving me a heads up. We kind of moved the budget, moved the agenda around.
Yeah, no, and I really appreciate you guys doing that, so, I apologize for having to leave, but I wanted somewhere else yet tonight, so.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
John.
Good job.
Yep, good night, yeah, everyone.
Thanks, John.
Can I speak to you, please? Oh, thank you.
Okay, as long as we're kicking around the budget. 24 budget request update.
Okay, this is relatively brief. We are absent our office manager. I think I explained that at the last meeting. The rest of the accounting staff stepped up, worked close with our finance department and our managers to get our budget put together and submitted into MPM to the finance committee by the deadline. We continue to work with the finance committee to work through the effort of translating it from CHEM's highway DOT standards to Munis Tyler Dodge County standards, but it's going well. There's a lot of heavy lifting there, but it's going well. And basically what we were asked to do is prepare a budget with the expenses, all the anticipated expenses, and the outside revenue sources being monies we get from contracting with DOT or DOT highway improvement grants, but not the typical anticipated property tax levy, sales tax allocation, ARPA monies. Those are absent from our request. So we did not submit a balanced request like we typically would. We submitted the expenses and our known revenues from outside sources. Everybody's working hard now to blend that together and figure out how the county funds all the anticipated expenses. So I think that's a fair statement of where we are. What we did then for anticipated expenses is our operating expenses, our wages, insurance, utility bills, things that are built in, the operating expenses in that perspective. And then the projects that are in the 5-year CIP, the projects we enumerated here, the 2024 projects, a list we've seen many times and worked on. That's in there with Nathan's estimate of expenses, which you've seen. And also the list of equipment that we talked about at length here. And it's in the 5-year or the CIP. That's what we submitted, our operating expenses plus the list of equipment we've seen at this table, It's tabled to this committee, and the project list we approved earlier in 2023. It's in county administrator or finance director's hands, and at some point in time, I'm sure that will move on to, I'm guessing, the finance committee, or however that progresses, but we've submitted our.
So what percent increase did you ask for?
I didn't ask for any percentage increase. I asked for what we need and what we know it's going to be.
How much more
Well,
was it?
it's more, I guess I can't tell, not significantly higher, other than the wages.
How
Wages
much?
and insurance are.
Give me an estimate. 2%?
No, it's more than 2, probably more like 8%.
8%.
And that's broad. Wages, benefits.
Estimate, that's a pure estimate.
Yeah, wages, benefits, insurance,
Right. Hey,
cost of
Cameron,
materials.
Cameron, I got a question.
Yes,
What,
go ahead.
you know, every department budgets for their own healthcare, stuff like that, right, wages?
That's correct.
But why won't we just keep like, healthcare separate, so each department doesn't have to, you know, worry about the healthcare expenses, just keep that as a separate budget item altogether? Because the department really doesn't have any say in them increases at all, or what it is.
Well, yes, we could, I suppose we could do that. I think the reason is, it's not as effective to tie, if we took all, I'm gonna say, it's not as effective as when it comes to keeping every department accountable for their costs. It's not as effective to pull out wages and benefits and have that be a separate, a separate basket.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna give you an example, all right?
Yeah,
So if I have an employee with, that's making, let's say he's making 60,000 with another 30,000 in benefits, right, $90,000, right? So if that employee decides to quit or leave or whatever, right? Now, the department maybe doesn't find anybody for half of the time. So,
right.
there's like $45,000 that still would go to this new employee they hire, but the other 45,000 could get absorbed in his budget, and he could spend it on other means.
So, I'm not certain about prior budgets and prior practices, but my position on that is that moving forward, wage and benefit dollars would only be used for wage and benefit things. So if you have savings that comes as a result of a vacancy in a position, it's a lot easier, I think, for people to swallow if those dollars don't get used for for a project. I know even the one that we talked about and I shared an example of just a few minutes ago with the traffic signals is a little bit out contrary to that. But in general, I don't think we would want to have savings in payroll be turned around and used elsewhere in the budget. And if that's been done in the past, great. But moving forward, that's probably not something we'll be doing.
Okay,
We're
thank you.
straying a little bit off of the budget request item, but I guess.
Yeah, and you can say you heard that here, because that's,
Yeah.
I had a conversation with our HR director and finance director about that very thing a couple work days ago. So,
I guess the other thing, it would completely skew our costings for state work and everything else.
Yeah,
It wouldn't-
that's not an option for
No,
us.
it's not an option.
We need all our costs here. Qualifying expenses for GTA reimbursement. Not an option here.
Brian, was there any concern on your end with that, or was that?
Yeah, no, what you said is fine from my perspective. Highway has to have all of their expenses separate and logged. It's part of the DOT accounting process and the GTA calculations for our general transportation aid. So we need to get credit for all of our expenses. The more you spend, the more aid you get. And so dodging one of the big items in our budget would be detrimental.
Okay. Any other comments on this item? Then I guess we'll move back up to the top of the agenda and kind of work through it item by item. Public comments. Anyone? for
Yes, I have public comment. So, before coming here, I made a tour of the place, a few things I observed. right over there, we have a non-heated building, cold storage. In that cold storage building, there's some nice shiny trucks with the plows on, all decked out. And from when I get talking to someone, the reason we put them plows on was to take it to a show, to show off our nice shiny trucks. And obviously, this is part of the cost of running a county-wide snow plowing institution. And if this being part of the cost of running a county-wide snow plowing institution, I would expect the townships would be helping to pay for some of the cost of taking these trucks to these shows to show them off and that kind of thing. And one thing I'm wondering is how do costs like that figure into this? Where is it in here that they're paying the cost of taking these trucks to these shows and that sort of thing? Also, some other things that I have. I know a driver who retired right before the snow plowing season, a county highway worker, a long-time worker, and the reason he quit right before snow plowing season was because he did not want to have to go through another winter of snow plowing. He did not like that. So us as taxpayers had to pay to keep this guy on all summer long in hopes he would plow snow, and then he didn't plow snow. And I think there should be some sort of an incentive for these people to stay on November to March. If you stay on from November to March, you get more money. We want people to retire April 1st, not going into snow plowing season to make that happen. Another thing I think too with our county the supervisors that drive around, they obviously brought up some good points. Yes, they have plowed snow, but it doesn't work out the best because things happen, trucks break down, they get real busy with that. I see some obviously problems with them plowing snow, but there's other times that I'm thinking everything is going right and there's not a whole lot that these guys have to do besides just go for a ride while everybody else is plowing snow. And the thing I always wondered about a lot too is why don't we put deep plows on these trucks, and if they don't have much going on, they can clean out ramps, they can clean up intersections, not have them assigned to something, but to be able to help the other drivers so we can make better use of their time. And I think through making a little bit better use of their time, we may be able to cut back on trucks in other places. Also, a thing I would like for the highway committee to do after this meeting is to walk to the other side of this building, the far north side. Over there, I found a truck wash that we have over there. To me, it seems to be a very nice truck wash that we already have, that many construction companies would be thrilled to have. There was lights on the walls, it had a nice hot water heater to heat the water to wash the trucks on the north side of the building. And I understand it's not a fully automated truck wash, it's not the best thing that we could possibly have. And I think there's some real advantages of having this. I live in Reeseville, right across from a truck wash that we have over there, and I can see right through the building. And to me, it seems like the majority of the traffic, to my opinion, I have no study of this or anything like that, just my observation, is police cars going through our automatic wash. And I'm kind of getting a vibe, these guys are out on these patrols, nothing's happening, they're getting kind of bored, they find a little bit of dirt on their squad car and like, hey, let's go for an exciting ride through the wash, give us some little more excitement to do, and that kind of thing. So now instead of these people being out on the road watching for speeders and drunk driving, they're kind of getting an entertainment show going through these fully automatic washes. And one feeling that I would have is all of our truck washes were like the truck wash that we have here, and they actually had to physically get out of the vehicle and do the work of washing their vehicle, that they would not be washing their vehicles as much as they are. So some ways I think there's some real advantage of this, and before we go out, I'm guessing with inflation, a new truck wash would be costing us in the ballpark of $1 million. I think we should take a really good look at the one that we have on the north side of this building before we allocate another $1 million to buy the absolute best wash and have more policemen off the roads getting entertained in the automatic washes. And also another thing I would encourage everybody to do is just walk around this building here and look at the amazing office space that we have sitting empty. And I think this building here could easily handle 1 or 2 departments that we could put in the office section here. It's fantastic what we have here. It's just sitting empty, and maybe cut back on a building somewhere else. So I just encourage you to look at this part of the building and at the other part of the building. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item is approve the minutes of the, I think it was, we have 2 sets of minutes. August 3rd and July. date was. Anyway, it's
August 3rd and July 6th.
okay. Everybody okay with the revisions on those minutes? I'll read
Was it
those.
July 13th and August 3rd?
July 6th and August 13th, item number 4.
Why do I have it as July 13th?
It was actually the 13th because we moved it
August
back.
3rd.
It wasn't the first Thursday. in
Mine says the
July.
3rd, but I get a different, I get a different agenda.
That was the original, I think, or the 6th should have been the original.
Yep.
So we agreed to change the date.
Yep, just error in the dates. Everybody okay with the revisions and ready to approve them? Entertain a motion. So move. Motion by Rob, second by Dale. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved. Item 5, highway condition safety concerns. Got anything for that?
Do the August 3rd minutes too? Or did we
Yeah.
just approve them both?
We recorded it and
Is it standard practice now when we do intersections that we put curb and gutter on the side, like California curb?
we learned the hard way that keeps the traffic in the road, that keeps the gravel where it belongs. We don't get that big hole along the radius.
Right.
The water, the mud, the gravel out in the roadway. And consequently, if we don't protect that edge of pavement, it's broken off. It's usually,
And we've had good success with that then?
because
What about runoff on the roads, we have better drainage through them?
we do everything, yes. They've proven to be a very good addition at
Keep the
minimal
kids in
cost.
the four-wheel drives out of the ditches too.
That is a question a lot of people ask, though, or
Sure.
statement that they make.
I've had that too, but, you know, at the end of the day, the addition to the cost of that project is quite minimal. You know, it's,
And you also get a road over there too. So people constantly going off the road, making a turn, the shoulder would get ground down, and then we constantly have to go back and refill it.
And it makes it easier for the plow drivers too, I think.
right, you got something to that.
If you don't keep that shoulder up, then the edge of the pavement breaks off. This eliminates all of that.
Okay.
Good question, we get it built.
Okay. Anything else on highway condition safety concerns? Move on to item number 7, project updates.
All right, our highway W, T, S, and E projects are all done. They've been paved, seal coated, pavement marking. The only outstanding thing there is Highway E. We're gonna have 2 sections of guardrail we'll put along Highway E this fall. Highway TW, the west section, that's from Kikoski to V. First layer of asphalt's actually gonna go down on that on Saturday.
They're gonna start Friday.
They're gonna start Friday, okay. They had some issues with the equipment being in town, but they're gonna do it as soon as they have the equipment, so Saturday was the earliest, I guess it's Friday now.
I got a question on that, because you're right in Kikoski here, that's what we're doing there, by the fire station.
Yeah, starting at Y Street and
So
going
what
east.
part does Kikoski pay for their whole road, because they're annexed in now? Where is that line?
So the line, what is in our jurisdiction is the section we're resurfacing. That's where we pay for the 22 feet down the center, and then the village pays for anything on the outside of that. So we had that municipal agreement. We had municipal agreements on both Highway TW projects and the Highway V project.
Right, you know what I'm saying, since, when we have the city, we have the boundaries, and the
Yeah.
county comes up to that portion, right, and we pay the rest.
Well, this road is basically entirely within the village. So that's why we do the standard 22 feet, and then anything outside of that is paid for by the village. That's the statute.
Unless they redo their boundary.
Well, it'll be based on the boundary, but
Right.
according to the road jurisdiction, our Highway TW ends at Y Street. Y Street is not ours. So,
I'm just wondering, because they could petition, or they could have filed the paperwork to basically have their boundaries, right? And then they would get extra state aid because they would cut the county road short, and then we wouldn't get that as well.
you're saying if they went back to being a town? You mean?
No, if they were, no, they're gonna be, if it goes through, right, they'll be their own village, right, and they might set their own boundaries. like Mado, right? We could actually extend our boundary beyond Shopko all the way out to the edge of the line, and that would be our jurisdiction. And we would get extra funding from the state for highway or roads or whatever. And then the county wouldn't have that section anymore to maintain or plow.
Well, we'd have to do jurisdictional transfer to accomplish that.
Yeah, the road.
It's not just them arbitrarily changing their boundaries. We have the jurisdiction on that highway, so we have by statute the responsibility for the center 22 feet.
Right now, but they couldn't because now.
They could
that-
request a jurisdictional
Right.
transfer of the roadway,
Because they're,
which is different than village boundaries.
Yeah, because the road is entirely within the village. So the only way that that would be their road is if we basically gave up Highway TW to the village and made it a.
right, but
village
technically
street.
a highway lead, right? We end at the city limits because the city's got boundary jurisdiction on that. But technically, if they didn't have that jurisdiction, highway lead would run right into town all the way along to Johnson.
That, because that's where our jurisdiction ends, is at that boundary.
Right.
So in order to change that, you'd have to have a transfer. You'd have to
Right.
basically take this pavement and make it the city's or the county.
Right, they'd have to do some paperwork.
Yes.
Then
Then
file that with the state or the county.
they go through the state.
Starts here, goes to the county board and then the state.
All right, you know what we're talking about, that affects you more than anybody.
Oh yeah, okay, so the west section of TW, I said is getting the first layer of asphalt tomorrow. The east section that goes from Highway WT out to AY, first layer of asphalt for that section will be on Monday. And then Highway V, our last project for the year, the cold in place process started at the north end. Basically, it's going from 49 down to, we're headed towards West Line Road. We're actually doing that right now. They're gonna keep going south with that process. They do about a mile a day, so it'll take them through most of next week to get that process done. Then you have to have a few days of cure time before you can pave it. And then the paving, according to the project schedule, is looking to start the end of next week. And they'll no doubt go north to south, because you wanna have that cure time on the cold in place layer. So everything goes to plan. The schedule has the road being paved end of September.
I've got a question. Have you heard anything further on the CJ project? I know it's not our necessarily jurisdiction, but
No, I haven't. I have a lot of unanswered messages on that project, unfortunately.
That's a good question.
the season's getting short here, and that was supposed to happen here this year, so.
I know that'll be a short one, but it's gonna have to be a really short one at this point.
That's right. Okay. I guess then time and date of the next meeting, we had determined was October 5. Future agenda items. The roll farm again.
Where would you like to meet on October 5th? Another shop or back in June?
Well, we're gonna talk about that state ordinance, do, get that done?
Yes, yes. Roles and responsibilities is what I wrote.
Where can we meet next? Where other place we got plans? Rubicon?
You could, I don't know if there's any utility in
Neosho.
meeting. Neosho.
Reesville.
Reesville.
All right, Neosho it is.
If the chair agrees.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine.
Can we make that one 4:15 so we don't overlap?
Overlap the guys leaving work, yeah.
It's easy here because they're different around
They're
buildings.
back, yeah. All right. Any other business, anything else?
Does anybody want to see the facilities?
You wanna take?
Yes, I do.
You want to
Do that before we adjourn then, I guess.
He's suggesting that reducing the employee with bigger benefits to the existing ones, is that something we can put on an agenda?
We can make recommendation to the HR
HR
committee.
committees, how
We
that
can't
would-
act on it. We can make recommendation.
I think we should do that.
I think so too. We talked about it last meeting. Kind I mean, I think we should do that countywide.
We could call it for an agenda item, maybe retention incentives. Retention incentives, recruiting and retention incentives.
I mean, it's time.
So that's all
Everybody and
right.
their brother out there, it's time. But it must be, well,
If we don't act, it's gonna get worse.
Cameron, I guess we're gonna be taking a tour of this facility here. We are not adjourned yet, but probably you can head out at this point, you guys.
I've been there, enjoyed the tour. It's a great facility.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for joining us, Cameron.
Thank you very much.
I have
Sorry
to leave
about the
for another
sound issue
meeting, so.
at my end. Thank you all.
I'm sure I wouldn't want to get paid
I've got this 2 hours. They're gonna pay me. So,
What about Supervisor Guckenberger?
who are you leaving and ask him?
I can ask you.
He's right off.
You know, Brian, I
Dave,
had
you
to
want
make
to
a
get
point
paid?